Welcome everyone to FPL Chat Down Under. I'm with my co-host Alex. I'm the Pom, and we're going through the week in fantasy after the international break. How are you doing, Alex?
Good, man. I hate international week. It just feels like it goes on forever. And, now with the exciting news of a one Cristiano Ronaldo coming back into the Premier League, I am so keen for this week to come back.
It's like a kid in Christmas, isn't it? I mean, the international break, it's, got to say, no AFL to speak of as well. It's kind of been a bit of a dud week. I thought, the international break. I've watched a lot of the international games, but it's not the same, is it?
It's not. I mean, you sit there with your countries and you get happy and excited, but I mean, nothing matches the thrills and the excitement of supporting your own club. So it's good to have the Premier League back this week.
And obviously, you touched on it. We've got Ronaldo back. That is the big deal. He's everywhere at the moment. You'd be under a rock if you haven't escaped it. But what are your initial thoughts? Let's talk a little bit about CR7. The hero returns. What are your initial thoughts in a fantasy aspect?
I think he's just too good to not have. Seriously, I think he could honestly kick a brace in his first goal, especially if he starts at a pumping Old Trafford. Ronaldo's back home. He looks a guy that's motivated. He looks happy. He's glad he's home. I think we're going to see immediate results with Cristiano Ronaldo. We know the guy is just a scoring monster. He's arguably the greatest of all time. He takes the piss out of games. He just reads it so well. He gets his head on everything. He just gets in the right spots all the time. I mean, you look at that United front three and you have Cristiano Ronaldo leading the line. It's going to be goals galore. You just feel it. And against a team like Newcastle this week, no offense to Newcastle, but they're not the greatest defensive side. So we could see some serious returns from Cristiano this week.
I'm with you. And I think also as well, it creates a lot of questions, doesn't it, with CR7 being back in the terms of what does it do to Bruno? But more importantly, a couple of players I think may suddenly increase. Like we talked about it off camera, Sancho. Now we know Sancho killed it with assists last year. He had Erling Haaland, as we know, wonderful footballer, probably one of the big talking points of next year's transfer period. He's now crossing to, like you said, the best of all time.
It's just asking for goals. It's asking for returns galore. So I think Man United's attack is going to be definitely something to keep an eye on because there is just so many weapons and so many guys there that can actually provide returns from an FPL standpoint, but in a real life perspective as well. It's just, we said it off camera. I genuinely think this is probably the best transfer period that Man United's maybe ever had. It's unbelievable. Close. It's unbelievable. And, Manchester United can't really afford excuses anymore. Now's the time to start bringing some titles back to the red half of Manchester.
Yeah, I've got to say, before we start, how long did it take you to wildcard from the transfer being announced?
Literally the same night.
I've got to say, I wildcarded in about 10 minutes, and I think my team has changed 100 times. The more we talk about Sancho, the more I'm debating getting rid of Salah and bringing in Sancho.
I mean, it's Salah. That's a bit of a risky move, but I mean, this game is built on risks, as I've always said. If you're willing to take a risk and it works out for you, that's your difference between you coming out and going up the ranks, or it could be your downfall, and that results you in dropping the ranks. So it's very dependent on what you feel.
Well, I mean, we'll have a look at our teams at the end of the show, but let's get straight into it. So our first game, obviously in the warm-up to return of Ronaldo, I'm calling it, we've got Palace Spurs. So this will wet our whistle while we wait for Ronnie. And I've drawn Palace this week, and I've gone with a weird one this, and I actually watched the Palace game the week just gone, and this guy did catch my eye. Big MacArthur, 4.5 in the midfield, 6 points last week as well. And he pulls the strings, doesn't he, for Palace?
Yeah, he does. It's a surprising one because normally for a 4.5 midfielder, they're normally just the defensive mids that, you're just there to just sit on the bench and never get returns. But MacArthur's actually proved, over time that he actually has the ability to play a nice ball, to provide even a goal from long range. So If you're looking for a cheap way into Crystal Palace, MacArthur seems to be the answer almost every year because he just seems to be a guy that's just nailed on consistently. And I think you even brought up MacArthur last episode. So he's definitely an option in Crystal Palace, and there's always returns that, as you saw, 6 points from a 4.5 midfielder. You don't see that happen very often. So it's very handy and someone to look out for, especially when Crystal Palace do have a good fixture.
Yeah, and Palace as well. There seems to be, with us doing the home and away each week, seems to be one of them teams that I get all the time. So it's really good fun, actually, because you start to take notice of sides that I probably don't watch as much, but he definitely catches the eye. And like you say, his end product is really good, and he's got some handy players he's playing in, Benteke and also Zaha, who are phenomenal finishers when they do get the ball in the final third. So I think 4.5 is definitely someone that you might bench and look for a return in the next couple of weeks.
And I just might mention that, they just recently transferred in, I think it's Edouard from Celtic. And, he's been a proven guy in the Scottish Premier League that, he can score goals as well. So it's just another option, another thing for MacArthur to look out for.
Yeah, he's not bad as well. Plays for the wrong side of Glasgow, but yeah, I'm very familiar with him. Very good finisher as well. When he gets the ball in that box, he can definitely find top bins. Who did you pick for Spurs then? Tell us who you did.
For Spurs, I picked Harry Kane. I picked Harry Kane for this week. He only scored the 1 point last game, but the transfer period's over. We know he's staying at Tottenham now. I think he's got that sense of comfortability back again, knowing that he's going to be at Spurs and there's not as much speculation around him anymore. We know the prowess of Harry Kane. We know that he's just a top striker, and it's just goals galore and even assists galore with him, as we saw last season. And last season he did score 19 points against Crystal Palace. So there's returns there, and I think a refreshed and a happy Harry Kane back at Tottenham. I think even though he's 12.3, if you're willing to spend up from a Lukaku or something like that, you go someone like Harry Kane, because the guy is just a goal scoring machine, and he proves it time and time again. So I'm expecting a return this week from the big Harry Kane.
Oh, definitely. And like 12.3 as well. I know it's expensive, but we are talking your premium striker. We aren't talking a maybe. This guy is proven year on year, his ability. And I think as well, Spurs, the game style that Nuno's brought actually benefits him, because you find with Son, he was isolated a lot, one-on-one with the last man. And this guy's got the strength and the ability to take them chances.
And he loves taking a shot too. Doesn't matter where he is, outside the box, inside the box. If he gets any sort of a glimpse at the goals, he's taken a shot. And that's what you love and what you're looking for in an FPL striker, someone that's going to consistently shoot and look to score. So, I'm expecting big things from Harry Kane this week.
I like that one, and probably one of the players as well that, like you say, with Lukaku and stuff, people's eyes are focused on, I would say, probably two premium strikers, Ronaldo and Lukaku, obviously. He's probably the one as well that may be a bit of a differential as well for you as well, looking through it.
Yeah, I think he's only owned by 7% of people, which is, so strange. This is Harry Kane. I mean, I know obviously all the speculation from the summer transfer and all that has hindered people's, or reluctant people to pick him. But I think now that he's there and we know that he's going to be there now, he's going to be the man that they're going to look for time and time again to kick goals. It's going to get to a point where you're like, I need to get Harry Kane in my team. Could this be the week? I don't know, but I think it's going to happen soon enough.
No, I agree. And he looked pretty sharp as well on England duty as well. He looked like he hasn't missed a trick. So I would say probably a week or two back in the flight. But he's got an easy fixture this week as well. So, I mean, all it takes is that he's that type of player, a 6-yard special, and he's back in the goals. And
all it takes is to see one goal go through that net, and momentum can change for a player very, very quickly.
No, 100%. No, I think that's a great pick. And then we go to the North London rivals, and that is Arsenal Football Club. They play Norwich. So I went with, probably no surprise here, Ben White, 4.4 defender. No points last week. Arsenal were in a world of hurt, but their fixture these next couple of weeks don't get much easier, does it, than the fixtures that they're getting? So it's got to turn soon. And I do think this is a stonewall clean sheet this week.
It should be. It should be. And, obviously Ben White didn't play the last game week against Manchester City because of him testing positive to COVID. But I think now that he's recovered, he's back. He's a guy, they spent all that money for a reason on him. And I think he's a guy that no matter what, unless he's injured or something happens with COVID again, he's nailed on. And a 4.4 defender. And you look at the fixtures that Arsenal are coming up with, not just in the next fortnight, but it feels like over the next month or two. You gotta pick an Arsenal defender or just an Arsenal player in general, because there could be some serious returns there. And Norwich have shown they've shown a bit of an ability to concede a goal and not really look as attacking. So, sorry, when I say not as attacking, but they haven't really looked as potent in front of goal. Their goals come from a penalty. So there's potential there for a clean sheet very easily for Ben White this week.
No, I'm with you. I like Ben White as well. I do like him. And I mean, Arsenal, their transfer period has kind of been a lot of questions about it. I mean, just put it in perspective, you can buy almost 3 Cristiano Ronaldos for 1 Ben White.
Unbelievable stuff. Who would have thought?
So just to make you feel better there, Arsenal, you could have 3 Ronaldos, but you've got 1. But no, Ben White, like you say, I think long-term investment as well, because Arsenal's fixtures are borderline banter the next month.
No,
so
they're amazing. And I think, Arsenal, I don't want to say this is a Manchester United supporter, but I just think that they've had a bit of a crappy run lately. They've had some injuries, they've had some key players out, and they've just been a bit of, uncertainty about them. I think once they get that first clean sheet, they get that first result, I think it will turn for the better for them. So yeah, no, definitely Ben White at 4.4. You need to get him.
Over the next 6 weeks, just checking the stats, they have got the easiest fixtures. So definitely a long-term investment there. Now, who did you pick out for Norwich?
It's time for the Pookie party again. And I picked him last time and he come close to scoring and he didn't. But I watched them and everything goes through Pookie going forward. And he kicked their goal. Obviously, it was a penalty, but he kicked their goal. He's only 5.9. After this week, so Norwich have had a terrible run with fixtures to start the season. But after this week, Norwich's fixtures start to turn for the better in a big way. I'd argue they're nearly second to Arsenal, if not third. And if you're looking for someone that can bring returns, Pookie's shown that he's a man who can kick goals and provide some returns. So Arsenal have shown also that they've been a bit frail down back. Depending on who they get back this week, I'm not sure, but they've shown an ability that they concede a lot of goals at the moment. And if there's someone who can kick a goal, it's Teemu Pukki. So at 5.9, that's a very cheap option into the forward line. And for when the fixtures turn better as well, if you want to take a punt on someone from Norwich, you got to go the Pukki party.
Well, I mean, I know you're a big fan of Pukki. I've got to say, he is the consummate forward, though, isn't he? I mean, he definitely is the kind of forward, if you're a bottom 6 side, you'd want in your team, because he is going to take his chance. He doesn't get a plethora of chances, but he is quite potent when he does have a clean shot on goal. Also, the penalty, as you say, a lot of these lower league teams as well, particularly towards the middle part of the season, do seem to get a few dodgy free kicks and penalties. So always the option. And 5.9 isn't a bad outlay, is it?
It's not. And if you're looking for someone cheap as a third striker, obviously if you're going 2 big guns or a Ronaldo or a Lukaku and a Calvert-Lewin or something like, or an Antonio, 5.9 for Pukki, I don't think he can get much better, especially when Norwich's fixtures turn pretty good. So yeah, big fan of it. He could find his way into my team soon enough, that's for sure.
No, mate, I'm 100% with you. I think Pukki, great get. Like you say, that bench option as well. We always have the cheap bench option as a forward. Chance of returns, particularly over the next 6 weeks. And then we have Brentford versus Brighton. Now, this is an interesting one. I picked for Brentford, and I love it. I've gone Raya, the goalkeeper, at 4.6. Now, Brentford, we're talking about easy fixtures. Brentford have done particularly well in their tougher fixtures, but kind of middle of the road over the next 3 weeks. So they're not astronomically hard. It does get harder, though, after the next 3 weeks. But I think for 4.6, if you're looking for an option, definitely a chance for a bit of a cash grab with Raya.
Well, sometimes in a goalkeeper sense, the worst fixtures actually turns out to be a good thing for the goalkeepers because there's save points there. There's save potential there. They might not get a clean sheet, but there's save potential there. And I've watched Raya a couple of times, and that guy loves a save. He's pretty good, and he stopped already a couple of shots that you would think that just deserve to be in the back of the net. So if you're looking for a cheap goalkeeper, obviously he's already gone up the 1 point. You go for Raya. He's shown an ability to be a very, very good shot stopper.
He's got a bit of Martinez about him from last year, I think. The kind of guy that probably no one had in the team at the start of the year, but you start to take notice. And like you say, difficult fixtures coming up after this 3-week block, but a guy of his ability could probably make you them clean sheets that you lose back in saves. So very good goalkeeper. And I kind of have looking at Brentford as well. And I think even though they're hard, one thing they have shown already is they're very tough to break down. So clean sheet bonus also comes in there as well.
I'm bloody spewing about Ivan Toney the 1 week I get rid of him and he kicks a goal. Always happens.
That is the way. That is the way. What about Brighton? Who do you like at Brighton?
Well, I think at Brighton, a man that I've always liked, and even when he first come in the Premier League, he come and actually provided quite a bit for Brighton, and that's Pascal Gross. He's the guy that, like a James Ward-Prowse, he's always got assist potential. He takes the set pieces, and that guy, and Gross can really whip in a really good ball. And you think of Brighton's, set ability at set pieces with, Lewis Dunk and Veltman and Shane Duffy and guys like that. There's assists there waiting to happen for Pascal Gross, and he takes the set pieces. He loves a long range shot. He could be good for an assist or two. Obviously, he only scored the 2 points last game week, but he's already returned once or twice this season. And I think Brighton's fixtures are still fairly decent. So if you're looking for a cheap option to get into Brighton's midfield, that's not just a Basuma that everyone seems to have just because he's a cheap defender. If you're looking for someone to take a punt on at 6 mil, Gross could be a nice option because, you always want guys in FPL that take set pieces that are a threat that could bring returns. So I think it's an option that, if you, like I said, if you want to take a punt, you look at someone like a Gross because there's returns there.
No, I could not agree with you more. I mean, 3 of the next 5 fixtures are rated as easy. So 5-week gap there, really, of potential quality. And like you say, is their set piece taker, particularly their indirect free kick taker, which is even more important because they pepper the 6-yard box with defenders in their free kicks. So definite assist potential in these games as well. 2 of the sides as well, incidentally, are vulnerable from set pieces. So you're going to be looking at this guy here, the big booming right foot, and someone getting on the end of it.
If he gets a return, if you know what I hate sometimes about doing this is like I don't have half of these players, and then if they get a return, I'm like, God, I just speak about these guys all the time, and they always pop up and get things. So
yeah, you see, I've started to learn that. A few of the players that I've big noted have gone off that week, and I'm like, maybe I should start following my own advice.
Yeah. All right.
Well, then we go on to Leicester, Man City. And I've got Leicester this time. And this is a guy that has probably been on the precipice of my side anyway. That's Pereira, 5.5. We love a marauding right back, left back. You love them little fullbacks who get up and top. And he's one of them, isn't he? 4 points last week. He's always there or thereabouts as well. And everything that, when you know Rodgers' side as well, he loves his fullbacks to get involved in that attacking third. And he's someone that I think 5.5, he's proven value. This fixture isn't so bad this next 3 weeks, but it is the 4th easiest the week after. So particular assist potential. And for 5.5, it's there or thereabouts, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've spoken about Pereira before, but he's a guy who just loves beaming down that right flank and whipping in crosses. I think he's already had an assist or two this season, and one of them's gone to Vardy. So yeah, no, there's definite returns there. About a clean sheet this week, I'm not too sure, but Leicester have shown an ability that they can keep a clean sheet, and I think last season in the fixture when they played Manchester City in Manchester, I think they won. I think it was 5-1 or 5-2 or something. So don't hold Leicester out in this week against Manchester City, because they've proven that they can beat them and beat them well. And Pereira is a guy who loves attacking, loves whipping in across. There's going to be something there, especially if a guy like Vardy or something like that gets a head on it. So yeah, no, I like it. It's a very good option.
And who did you pick? Man City. Surely there's only one, but who did you pick?
There is only one option. We love a bit of Grealish, but no, this week it's Ferran Torres. I think he's the man that a lot of people will probably be putting in their teams if they've wildcarded this week. 17 points against Arsenal last game week. He's already gone up 0.1 mil to 7.1, which is actually quite good. 7.1 is still very, very good for a Torres who is supposed to be playing much more number 9 this year, as opposed to playing out on a wing where we saw him last season, because Gabriel Jesus is playing out wide now. So we know what Man City is all about. They're always attacking. They love being on the front foot. They love keeping possession. And if Torres gets in those right spots, and as we're learning, is playing a number 9 more times than not, returns will definitely be there. So I think at 7.1, if you're wildcarding and you want a Man City player, I think Ferran Torres is starting to look a lot more appealing than not. I was a bit hesitant to pick him just because of Pep and the roulette, and I'm not sure what he will do week in and week out. But he's already started the first 3 game weeks. It feels likely he's going to stay as the number 9. 7.1 for a midfielder like that, you can't go wrong. So I think it's someone definitely a lot of people should be looking at for their wild cards.
Oh, you can't go wrong as well when he's basically a midfielder now deployed as a forward. So I mean, he looks good. He looks good, and I tell you what, he surprised me this year as well. His finishing is impeccable. Obviously, City as well. Your forwards are always going to get attempts. Always are going to get a view on goal. You look at that team. It is star-studded, to say the least, isn't it? I like it. I mean, the wonderful thing about FPL is the price rises are staggered. So he's definitely someone that he's going to go one or two ways, isn't it? He's going to keep this up. He's going to be that Jamie Vardy type from 3 years ago that was undervalued, kept scoring, and next year he's a primo, or he's going to nosedive. But whichever it is, if it's the good part, you want to get on it now.
Oh, absolutely. And he kicked what? He kicked the 2 goals against Arsenal. I think he just kicked a goal this morning for Spain against can't remember who they played against, but I'm pretty sure he kicked a goal this morning as well. So he's in a goal scoring mood, and there's definitely the potential there to score again this week. So it's definitely an option.
No, I love it, and I think he's in every team now, surely.
I think he'd be more teams than not. I still don't have him, but there's always potential before now and the deadline to chuck him in there.
Sneak preview. He's in. Over Grealish. It pains me. But then we go to really what this entire weekend is about, really. And that is United entertain Newcastle. And surprise, surprise, who I picked out here. Like, it's not a shock. 12.5. Forward, CR7. I fail to see why there is a reason no one would have this guy in his side. Because let's end the debate now. This guy is better than Messi. Better than Messi. If Messi was in the Premier League, you'd probably have him. Ronaldo, you've got to have him. No-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. It's a necessity, seriously. And like I said at the start, I think there's serious returns coming already in just game 1. He looks fit. He looks happy. He looks motivated. He's come here to win. He hasn't come here to just be, a story that I'm back home and all that sort of stuff. He's come here to win. And the last time he played Newcastle in a Manchester United shirt, he kicked a hat-trick, and that was at Old Trafford as well. Now imagine at Old Trafford absolutely going bonkers that he's returned. First game back at Old Trafford. I think he's going to be up and about, and I think if he gets anything close, if the ball gets anywhere near his vicinity, I like a goal more times than not. So I think it's an absolute no-brainer.
It's a guaranteed double figures weekend. Guaranteed. Like, I have already bookmarked this guy for 20 because I'm captaining him in. So lock. Easy 20 points there, and we just move on with our lives.
It'd be beautiful, wouldn't it?
Well, who have you picked for Newcastle?
Well, it's so funny. So I seem to be getting, like you said with Crystal Palace, I seem to be getting Newcastle every week. I feel like there is only two guys that you really, really talk about, and that's Saint-Maximin and Callum Wilson. But I think another one that you might need to pay attention to as the season goes on, especially when Newcastle have a pretty decent fixture, is Joe Willock. He was at Newcastle last season towards the end when he was on loan from Arsenal, and he returned in nearly every game he was with Newcastle, and the potential's there for some returns. He loves attacking, and you think of someone like Callum Wilson in the box, who I think Callum Wilson is arguably the most underrated forward in the entire Premier League. That guy just gets a boot, a head on anything, and it seems to find its way in the net more times than not. And Joe Willock's a guy that he loves pushing forward. He's shown that he does love an assist and even a goal. He loves getting into dangerous spots. And if you're looking for a cheap option once Newcastle's fixtures start to turn better, Joe Willock at $6 million, if you're not looking at a Saint-Maximin or a Callum Wilson up forward, is someone to look at. And we saw last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, with Manchester United and Adama Traore, he really caused United some serious damage, serious problems, I should say. Joe Willock could potentially be a guy that could do it. I'm not fully expecting it, but I think long term, Joe Willock's a guy to seriously keep an eye on, because once he starts returning $6 million, it's handy.
He's one of them players that I just scratch my head and think, why did Arsenal let him go? A very talented player, pulls the strings really well as well. And like you say, when you're giving through balls to a player like Callum Wilson as well, who is, in my opinion, a lot better than probably the level Newcastle are at. I think it's a match made in heaven. So, like you say, you've only got to get this week out of the way for Newcastle, and then the next 5 weeks, they're averaging about 2.8 in their difficulty rating out of 5. So it's not bad. They've got like 3 easy games in that. Definite kind of guy as well. That kind of matches how long he's been at the club. He'll be settled by then as well as the fixtures turn. But like you say, Adama proved last week, United, all these top teams do have a vulnerability, and Willock is going to be the guy that probably finds, if not, finds the person who causes that issue. So everything goes through him. I love that pick. $6 million is a bargain.
I think at the same time as well, I can't keep mentioning the same 2 players over and over again. Gets boring. So got to try and find something there. But yeah, no, I do like Joe Willock. I did watch him a bit last season, and I really do like him. And yeah, like you said, get this fixture out of the way. After that, it could be a very nice long-term investment.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we are going to talk about the same player every week, because I reckon Ronaldo may be the pick every week. Like, I'm putting a spoiler out there. I'm going to have him every week. Every time he falls in my category. CR7's there. Like, so excited. And then we move on to not as exciting after that. Southampton, West Ham. And I'm going him again. So I've done this bloke a few times, Ward Prowse. He's another Southampton. It's either Walcott or Wardy. And we're going Wardy again. I think still 6.5. He is underrated. Their free kick specialist. He literally does everything that creates chances for Southampton. He's a one-man band. I think 6.5, it's a bargain for someone who he's basically the Audi Bruno.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Southampton, they've had a bit of a tough start to the season with results, but fixtures as well. But, once they're fit, like a lot of these other lower sort of teams, once their fixtures start to turn good, you're trying to look for the threats, the pieces that can actually provide returns. And Ward-Prowse has shown it time and time again that he's a guy that can get returns. He takes the corners, he takes the set pieces, takes the free kicks, takes the penalties. How could you not love a guy like that? And at 6.5, like I said, once Southampton's fixtures start to turn really, really good, I think it's too hard to not get a guy like him in, because it's returns galore, especially if they start getting on the board.
Oh, like you say, free kicks, especially his free kicks as well, are elite. Let's be honest. He's got a fair set play on him. I think he's a 6.5 is a ridiculous value for a player that good.
It is. It's amazing. So no, definitely one to keep an eye on for as the season goes on.
And West Ham, who did we look at in the Hammers? They're going very well at the minute as well, we've got to say.
They are going amazingly well, and it's just so hard to pass this guy. Honestly, I mentioned about Antonio last week, the last episode, and I'll keep it short and sharp because I don't think there's too much that needs to be said about him. But he's currently the highest scorer in FPL. He's 7.9, I think he is now. Mikel Antonio, he's just on an absolute hot streak at the moment, and I don't know how you can have your team and not have Mikel Antonio in there at the moment. He is just in a rich reign of form, and he's just scoring goals for fun. He's just, I feel like I never had him, but I've put my wild card in, and I've put him in my team. I want to get in on the buzz. He's such an exciting player to have. He just looks so exciting when he plays as well. It's too good not to have him. So get on Mikel Antonio if you're not. He's already owned by nearly 50% of everyone in FPL. So I got to get on the Antonio train before it ducks off.
I've had him for a while now, and like you say, he's just a finisher and a half, isn't he?
He kicks goals for fun. He gets into great spots, and because he's just so quick and so powerful, he almost bullies centre backs, and he makes it look super easy. And we've seen from West Ham that they're a team that loves getting out in transition and getting those quick movements from the back line. And Ben Rama's been a nice little piece, as well as Fornals, but I think at the moment, if you're looking for just the West Ham piece, it's Mikel Antonio. So got to go after him.
And he is in such good form as well. I think that is, in my opinion, what is so potent about him. He looks like he can't miss at the moment, which is always, I think, just so important when you're looking at a striker. And he's getting the options, isn't he? He's getting the opportunities. They are actively searching for him every time they go down that. Go down the wing or through the corridor.
He looks like he's got the Midas touch at the moment. Everything he touches, it turns to gold. So you got to get on him. And I think West Ham's fixtures, then they're still quite decent. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him and West Ham, because they're about to start their Europa League campaign. So that'll be one to sort of watch. But I think for now, anyways, while the fixtures are still pretty decent, you get Antonio in and just have fun and ride with it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. I think he's... I'd be surprised if by now he's not nearly in 90% of teams, but you never know. And then we go to Watford Wolves. Now, this one I think is a really intriguing fixture. Both of these sides, I think you've got a lot to take out from how they're playing. I've picked him a few weeks now, Dennis, the man, the myth, the legend. I love this player. I love this player. I know at the moment you could say that he had one good game, calm it down, but I think he's just playing he just gets in the right spots, and that's all you need, I think, really, when you're looking at these type of players. You just need someone that gets in them right areas, and he really does, doesn't he? He gets in them right areas.
He does, and he looks nailed on as well. I mean, obviously, Troy Deeney's not at Watford anymore. And obviously he's been the man leading the line for quite a long time now. But, now it's time for the new men to lead the line. And Dennis looks like the one that is nailed on. And I'm telling you now, 5.2, that's an absolute bargain. He's already shown he's gotten a goal, already had a goal and assist. I mean, how can you not select a guy that's 5.2 and is leading the line for a team who have actually looked pretty decent going forward with Ismail Assar and guys like that. So, I love Dennis. I think it's a great pick. And even though I don't have him in my team right now, I think he's definitely someone to keep in there, and you keep him in there for as long as you can, because it could definitely be goals.
Oh, mate, 5.2, you can't fall off with Dennis as well. I mean, he's a natural finisher. Talking about natural finishers, who did you go to? Wolves. We know Wolves are definitely the side to look out for. Very easy fixtures coming up.
They have some great fixtures coming up, and I honestly can't believe they haven't scored a goal yet. Seriously, they have looked really, really good going forward, but that end product just has not been there at the moment. But I think the end product is coming soon, and they have some fantastic fixtures coming up. And the player that I've picked is Adama Traore. And my reasoning for that was, obviously Manchester United supporter here, watched Manchester United against Wolves, and Traore absolutely ripped apart Manchester United's defense. And at times, he should have probably scored a goal or even two and had an assist as well. That's how good he played. He's just a constant threat. I spoke about him, I think, on the last episode as well. He's so fast. He's skillful, and there's always potential for something big to happen there. He's just such an exciting player, and I think once he gets that first return, whether that's in a goal and assist, I think it's going to be too hard to go past him. And I really think that could be this week. They're so close. They're right there. Those returns are coming, and I think Traore is going to be in the thick of it more times than not. I know a lot of people have had doubts on him because he's just such a good player. He's so skillful, but his returns, just haven't been where they need to be. But there's always room for change, and I think under their new coach, they're showing that they're getting into some really, really good spots, and that end product is coming. So I really like Traore. 6 mil with the fixtures that Wolves have coming up. It's looking really, really good.
He's one of them players that when I watch him, I just wish he'd shoot. Wish he'd be a bit more selfish. He's a very team-orientated player. But I do think, like you say, I know that's probably one of the knocks on him. He doesn't score points. I do think people are forgetting the Jimenez factor. I do think when you do FPL, you've got to also see what is he feeding. And I think Jimenez is someone that no one's talking about. But watching him against United, he gets in really good positions. Probably was a victim of a very good defence. I thought Man United really handled him well. But this easy fixtures, Traore is going to give that up. And I think Jimenez, he's just a goal away for me from really reaching them heights again. And if he starts getting them in, it's going to be probably this guy that's knocking it to him.
Well, he's got nearly double the amount of successful take-ons than any other player in the Premier League at the moment. He's just a guy that he just loves getting forward, loves taking players on, and that's always asking for a return. They're coming. I'm feeling confident with Traore. It's coming, and I want to. I've got him in my wildcard team, and I want to be the one that's a part of it firsthand when they do start coming.
No, I appreciate it. I avoided him, and I'll show you who I went. But I agree. I do think it's going to be, I think, big call. One of the top scorers this year will be a Wolves player. Just got a feeling because the way they play, it's such a positive brand. It's just waiting. It's waiting. And once the floodgates open, I reckon they're going to open in a big way. I think good things are happening at Wolves.
I agree with you there, big time.
And then we go to Chelsea Villa. Now, Chelsea are a team that for some reason I just never get around. They're just one of them teams. And unfortunately, I drew the short straw and I got Chelsea. But one thing I'll say, with Tuchel's team, if you don't pick a defender from their team, you are mental. And the guy that I've got is Rudiger. Now, reason number one, he's German. And German centre-backs are very prudent. But two, he really does. When you look at their set pieces, this guy is getting on the end of them. I was watching them in the week just gone, and he's glancing them headers. He is a guy that I think will go off. I think jump on the Chelsea train because Chelsea and Spurs are two sides that I look at that just naturally they're tough to score against, and they've got very talented. And there's a good argument for Christensen. But I just think Rudiger is going to be the team that Tuchel builds his team around down back. And I love him. And I think 5.5, great value.
Oh, yeah, I think it's great value. I've debated him many, many times during this wildcard period. And he seems to be the one centre back that's absolutely nailed on and will continue to be nailed on. I think he was quite nailed on last year as well, or last season with Tuchel as well when he come in. So he seems to be the one that's going to play every week. And we know how good Chelsea are as a defensive unit, and how good Tuchel loves defensively plays his teams. They're always good for a clean sheet. They're always good for something, and it's hard not to go past Rudiger at 5.5. And as you said, he seems to be getting his head on set pieces more times than not. So as well as a clean sheet, there's a potential there for a return as well. So no, I love the pick, and it's definitely someone that I'm seriously still considering bringing in while the wildcard period is still on.
It is the best thing in the world as well when a centre-back gets a goal. I've got to say in FPL, is there anything better than celebrating a team you don't care about because the centre-back has scored? Like, it is a great feeling in FPL.
Not even just the centre-back, but just any sort of defender. If they even get an assist, I get excited. I'm like, woo. It's such a relief.
I love a centre-back header, and he's in my FPL team. I've got to say, I'll live for it. Now, who did you go with Villa?
I went with Ollie Watkins. I think now that he's he's recovered from his injury, I'm expecting him to start now, potentially with Danny Ings up front. And Ollie Watkins proved last season that he's a guy who can kick goals, and he's a guy that gets into really dangerous spots and finds the net more times than not, which is quite interesting for someone like Ollie Watkins. And he's already gone down 0.2 mil at 7.3. If he gets consistent game time, obviously Villa's fixtures aren't the most fantastic in the world at the moment. They started off really well. They've got a very difficult patch coming up, but it's not going to be difficult forever. And once they do start turning good, Ollie Watkins could be a guy to definitely keep an eye out for, because he's shown the ability to kick goals and be on the back of a lot of what Villa do. So I think having Danny Ings there as well could even help him even more as a striker and getting into those good spots. So I think that's something to keep a lookout for this week and going forward as well.
He's definitely, I mean, a lot of these as well, even when they've got hard fixtures, they're always good to do your own little scouting. And Watkins will be one of them guys that I'll be scouting, and especially in this 3-week block where they've got hard games. Because if these guys start showing a bit, when the fixtures turn, you want these guys in this next 3 weeks to be in a bit of form. Because when that form goes, genuinely strikers, particularly in the Premier League, history will say that form lasts about 3 or 4 weeks. So if you can pick him up 2 weeks' time when their fixtures turn, you could be on 30 points for the 3-week period. And then you sell him when his price rises again and you find that next 3-week player. So I love that pick. I think he's definitely someone that I'll be keeping a very close eye on in the weeks ahead.
I still remember their game last season when they played Liverpool and they won, what was it, 7-2? I think it was. Yeah. 7-1 or 7-2. Watkins was unbelievable in that game. So he's definitely shown an ability against the big clubs that he can pop up and score pretty consistently. So, yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on. He's had a very slow start to the season, obviously, because of injury and obviously, Danny Ings coming in and so on and so forth. But I think once he starts getting regular game time, we could find him in our teams more than not, I'd say.
No, I love it. I love it. And everyone's on the Ings train, so it's always good to go for, so if you want that point of difference. Then we've got Leeds versus Liverpool. Usually a pretty good game and few options for Leeds. Few outs as well due to whatever FIFA have done with COVID, who knows. But the one I've picked out is New England Cat Boy. Last year, everyone had this guy in his team. Patrick Bamford, 7.9. 8 points last week. I think he's going to be one of them players that he can go 2 ways with an England call-up. You either go bad or it G's you up. And I think Bamford is the type of player that it'll build up. This week, tough fixture. But after that, for the next 5 weeks, it's easy. It's easy. And I think Bamford is a natural goal scorer, isn't he? He's the Audi equivalent of Harry Kane.
Yeah, he's so potent. He's so potent in front of goal, which is really interesting because one of my good mates is a Leeds supporter, and I remember even from the championship days, he was getting absolutely frustrated with Patrick Bamford and his ability to not finish in front of goal. But last season, he must have found something and has come out of nowhere and started finishing. And you look at him this season, he's already had a goal. He's got an assist already as well. And, obviously Liverpool's never an easy fixture. He did score in this fixture, though, last season against Liverpool. So there's the potential there. But obviously it's a tough fixture this week. But after that, as you said, the fixtures become absolutely amazing for Leeds. And as we said, we know how Bielsa likes to play with his Bielsa ball and just constant attack basketball style. There's going to be obviously a lot of potential for returns there. And Bamford's going to be nailed on. He's going to play week in and week out. And he always seems to get something when Leeds are going forward. So, no, I definitely like the Bamford pick. And after this week, he's honestly really someone I'm considering bringing in for even as someone taking a risk like an Antonio, because the fixtures are really, really good. Bamford's shown that he's proven to score goals. And, no European football for Leeds. There's obviously a lot of potential there. So I like it. I love Postman Pat.
I love him. He's hard not to like. He does play for the wrong side, but I've got to say he's a good, honest footballer, and he'll get you returns. Who do we pick from Liverpool? They've got a plethora of talent. Who are you looking at?
I said this on the last episode about Jota, and then Firmino come and started. But Jota did play 45 minutes because Firmino, as we've learned, is now injured with his hamstring issue. There's no real indication about how long Firmino is going to be out. It could be 2 weeks, could be 8 weeks for all we know. But I think while Bobby Firmino is out, Diogo Jota is who you got to get. 7.6 in the midfield. Obviously, we know about Salah and Mane, but at 12.5 and 12 mil respectively is a fair price to pay. But if you're looking for a cheap way into Liverpool's attack, you go Diogo Jota. He plays the number 9 when he does play, and he's already proven this season that he's got an eye for a goal. I think he's kicked 2 goals already this season, and we know what Liverpool's all about as well. They're a very attacking team. They've got a lot of talent going forward, and with Salah and Mane there, and guys like Trent whipping in crosses there as well. There's potential there. So at 7.6, for even if it is for the next couple of weeks, you got to get on Jota because there could be some returns there. And Liverpool's fixtures for the next 6 weeks are actually fairly decent. I think there's only one fixture in there that's in the red. But apart from that, they're looking really good for returns. So as long as Firmino's out and Jota is starting, you get him in while you can.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, I actually think this is... I hate doing this because I fucking hate Liverpool. But I would say Jota is one of the most underrated footballers in world football. Like, I was watching him for Portugal. He's an absolute jet. He does everything any other player does that gets kudos for. I just think he gets lost. And I've never been a big Salah fan, right? So this might be controversial. He's in my FPL team because he's Brody Grundy. You kind of have got to have him in. But you saw the start of this year. I didn't. I went Mane. If this kid played every week without the Firmino incident, I'd be debating sacking Mohamed for this guy. I think he's a jet. I think he can finish. He can assist. He pulls the strings well. I love it. 7.6 is a balmy price.
Oh yeah, it's an absolute bargain. And like I said, if he plays week in and week out, it's too good to pass up. I'm like you. I think he's severely underrated. I think he's a fantastic guy, and it kills me to say that because I'm like you and bloody hate Liverpool. But he's a guy that has just proven time and time again. He's got an eye for a goal. He's got an eye for an assist. Just pops up in the right spots all the time. How could you not love that as an FPL pick? So yeah, at 7.6, while Jota will start and play a decent amount of time, you get him in because the returns will be there for sure. And I'm almost putting a 100% bank on that because he is a very good footballer.
Well, we just got to see what happens with Bobby. I mean, Liverpool have been very tight-lipped about him, but I mean, big call. I'd start Jota over Firmino if I was the coach.
Personally, I think Liverpool have looked much better going forward, attacking-wise, when Jota is leading the line as opposed to Firmino. I mean, what do I know? I'm not Jurgen Klopp or anything like that. But from what I see and what I analyse when I watch the games, I think that Jota looks much better up forward than Firmino. I just think it suits Salah and Mane a bit more So
I am
yeah.
1,000% behind you. Like, honestly, I think you're spot on. Like, I think he is a better player than anyone else. Like anyone else in that role at Liverpool, I would personally have him over Bobby every day of the week. But
I would too.
like I
I
say,
would too.
and the final game we've got is Everton. They entertain the legends that are Burnley. And this one here, I think a player who is another underrated player, Damari Gray, 5.6. Last week he got 8 points. And I think he's a player that, in my opinion, is probably good enough to play for England. I think he maybe goes under the radar with him playing for Everton. We know Benitez loves them inverted wingers, cuts back inside. A lot of their game plan is built on that. And I think he fits the bill. And their fixtures this next 3 weeks are stellar.
Oh, they're amazing, and I've put Damari Gray in my team, and I liked him even from his days when he was at Leicester. I still remember one game. I think it might have been about 3 years ago. He played against United, and United were absolutely dominating them, but I think they won the game 4-1, and the one goal scorer was Damari Gray, and that was off a nice cut in and whipping a ball from outside the box into the top corner. And I think ever since that moment, I started keeping an eye out on Damari Gray, and he's just such an exciting player. He's so quick. And as the stats have actually, the positioning stats have actually showed, he's been the most advanced Everton player. And, they've still got the likes of, Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin and the likes. He's been the most advanced forward each and every game. So I think at 5.6 and Everton's fixtures are still bang on pretty easy. I think it's just so hard to not have Damari Gray in your team. He's already kicked the 2 goals this season. He's returned two games in a row. And while the fixtures are still good and we're seeing the positions that he's getting in, how could you not have him? He's an unbelievable piece. And for 5.6, you don't find much value like that for that low. So I think as we might have said off camera, his time at Stuttgart has obviously given him that, not Stuttgart, Leverkusen, sorry, has given him that confidence again to find himself again and be that attacking threat that he showed when he was at Leicester when he got an opportunity. So I think now that he's got the opportunity at Everton, you keep him in for as long as Everton's fixtures remain good.
Oh, spot on. No, I'm a huge fan of him. And I think, like you say, his ability to finish, cut back inside, he's a tricky customer. And he's also got Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin as well that he's feeding as well. So potential for goals, but also huge assist potential. And I like Damari Gray. 5.6, you're usually struggling to find a player who even plays. But this guy could be one of your top scorers each week.
I think he's a fantastic player, and if I was doing Everton, I was definitely picking Damari Gray this week. As I said before, I've put him in my wildcard team, and I love it sitting there. So yeah, no, I'm happy with that.
And what about Burnley? Who did you pick from defensive specialists?
The defensive specialists, it's kind of hard to find some attacking returns. I've already spoken about Chris Wood and Dwight McNeil, but I've watched a couple of Burnley games, and one of the ones that seems to fly under the radar more times than not is Ashley Westwood. For 5.4, as we've spoken about with Damari Gray, Westwood's already kicked a goal this season, but he's that sort of player who he's probably more known as a defensive midfielder, but he seems to find himself forward more times than not. And getting into some really dangerous spots where he can whip in across or even take a shot. And as I said, I've watched Burnley a couple of times, and Westwood's been a guy that's really caught my eye because he's gotten into positions where I keep thinking he's going to return. He's going to get an attacking return here, and he already has once. So I think with guys like Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes in the team as well, where if he whips in across, they're going to get their head on it more times than not. I think that's definitely someone to look at. It's not the sexiest pick. It's not the most enticing pick in the world, but I think, sometimes you're looking for value in an easy fixture. And I wouldn't say Everton's an easy fixture, but Everton have shown that, they are very susceptible to conceding a very simple and easy goal. And Burnley, they play a simple game. They play a very traditional 4-4-2 and love whipping in crosses and getting the big strikers on the end of it. And Ashley Westwood is definitely a guy that is definitely one to keep an eye on, especially if Burnley start getting on a bit of a roll within the easier fixtures, because he's a very underrated piece for them, and there's some returns there. He's already got one. Who's to say he can't get more?
No, I agree with you, and I think he's one of them players as well. Like you say, it's not a sexy pick, but he's definitely, when their fixtures as well turn, that he's a guy that is in and around everything they do in the attacking phase of the game. So I'm not against this pick. I'm not against this pick. 5.4. You probably have someone who's a bench player around the 5 million mark. So definitely as well, in a week where it may get easier, he might go up to a 5.5, 5.6 in that period while he's on your bench. There's an upgrade for someone else. So you've always got to look at that, the mini game in the game.
Well, I think while we do this segment, we're not just looking to pick the same players over and over again. We're trying to find some differentials that might actually provide some returns and provide a bit of a difference. And I definitely think Westwood is one of them. So yeah, we'll see how we go. We'll see if the pick's right. But I definitely don't mind watching him, and it's definitely, I'm keeping an eye out on him for sure.
Well, I mean, we're talking about teams. Let's see what we're going in with this week. Like, obviously, spoiler alert, the wildcards were activated probably by the time it took United to tweet. So this is what I'm rolling with. So I've gone with probably not the most exciting team. I've gone with some safe here. I've kept Sanchez. For me, Sanchez is the best of the bunch, and I think 4.5 you can't go on. In this week, though, we've got Matip, Rudiger, Varane, and Laporte. Now, Laporte is someone that I think, watching City, this guy just seems to be the most aggressive defender I've ever seen in the history of the game. So, like, you get your centre-back potential, but he reminds me of Vidic. The fact he's just, every time a cross comes in, this guy's there. Like,
I think Laporte's an amazing I think he's I think he's he can be one of the best defenders in the world if he just got consistent time. And that's all we want from a Man City defender, is to just get consistent time. And that's why everyone picks Ruben Dias, because we know he's nailed on every week. If Aymeric Laporte gets nailed on week in and week out at 5.5 million, and how good City's defense are as well, it's so hard to not pick him. And I think that's why a lot of people get scared with guys like Laporte and Stones, is because there's always that rotation factor. They're going to be rotating for each other one way or another. But I think while Laporte's in and he's playing some good football, he's already got an attacking return this season. So no, I love that Laporte pick, and if he can nail on a spot next to Dias, it's a bargain at 5.5.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I had Diaz as well all year. So it's just been watching City. I'm a bit of a Grealish fanboy. He's the one that stands out every week. Midfield, his mate Torres comes in. You've recommended him this week. Surprise, though, there. I think Gray and Salah speak for themselves. Paul Pogba. Now, this is my risk. I take a risk every week. Ronaldo, 82% of his assists have come from a through ball centrally. And who's that going to? It's the Ronaldo effect. Pogba is in. And it's going to make the United game more interesting, because no one frustrates me in the world more than Paul Pogba.
Paul Pogba could be the best midfielder in the world if his head was screwed on properly and just stayed focused in games week in and week out. He could honestly be the best midfielder in the world. He's that good. But he just gets disinterested too easily. And in true Pogba fashion against Wolves, first half is an absolute no-show. Didn't even get near it. But then the second half, when he obviously gets his free reign and gets off the leash, he shows exactly what he's all about. He's already had 5 assists this season. 5 assists in three game weeks is unbelievable. And now with Ronaldo there leading the line, we know how amazing and how good Ronaldo is in front of goal. Those through balls are going to be going to him, and there is some serious potential there. So it could be considered a risk, but I think it's a very good calculated risk given how attacking United could be, especially this week against Newcastle.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope my goat and your high praise is right. Forward line, no brainer. I question if you're doing FPL properly if you don't have Ronaldo. Antonio, no brainer, and then bench. We've got Dennis. I've got a bit of Wolves flavour. These guys may come into the first team this week. It just depends what I'm feeling. But I've got Semedo and Trincao there. Raya completes the bench. But But I like that team. That was my wild card. Let's have a look at Mr. Alex's. Alex, take us through.
So obviously got Sanchez. I think that's the pretty traditional pick a goalie at the moment. But I've still got Luke Shaw. I still think while United's fixtures still remain good, there's, as we said about Ronaldo, there's attacking potential there. Shaw loves whipping it across. So imagine Ronaldo getting on the back of one of those. So I'm keeping Shaw for now. I've got Matip. Cheap way into Liverpool's defense. He seems to be pretty nailed on at the moment, playing alongside Van Dijk. So everyone's still got Trent and all that, but I think Matip, if you're just looking for clean sheets from Liverpool, 5 mil, you keep him in there. Semedo I've got in this week. I think they've got a good enough fixture to potentially keep a clean sheet. And then obviously Ben White against Norwich, I am banking on they're going to get a clean sheet this week, and White is expected to return. So I've definitely got him in my team. I had it in from game week 1, and he stayed in there. So might as well start him.
I guaranteed you a clean sheet. So
I'm taking your word for it. So I'll put him in. In the midfield, I've got Damari Gray, Mo Salah, and Traore, as I spoke about. I just think Traore, the fixtures with Wolves, they're going to start returning soon, and Traore seems to be in the thick of it more times than not this season. So I'm banking in on a return there for him, and obviously Damari Gray and Salah speak for themselves, as we spoke about before. And then up forward, I have Cristiano Ronaldo. As you said, you're doing FPL wrong if Cristiano Ronaldo is not in your team. I've decided to go a bit different here, though. A lot of people have gone, obviously, an Antonio or a Calvert-Lewin or even a Bamford as their second striker. But I've gone very big up front and have decided to put Lukaku in there, especially against Aston Villa, a team that, when he's been in the Premier League, has never blanked against. So I'm banking on some points there from Lukaku, but I think having him in there, obviously the next 2 weeks after this are a bit more difficult, but from game week 7 onwards, Chelsea's fixtures are just absolutely unbelievable. And if I can keep Lukaku in there and just take a couple of blanks if it happens up until game week 7, when he should hopefully start getting much better, I'm all for it. So I'll keep him in there. And obviously I put in Mikel Antonio. I think he's just playing so good at the moment. He's too good to not have in your team. Could be a potential change there next week for Postman Pat when Leeds' fixtures turn much better. So and with the European football, it's something I'm keeping an eye out on for. So we'll see about that. But on the bench, obviously I got Foster, still a cheapie. I don't think that's going to change much for now, anyways. I do have Rafinha. I was thinking of starting him, but obviously with the whole stuff happening with the Brazil FA and not letting them play this week in the Premier League, he'll likely miss this week. So obviously I had to put him on the bench. Obviously I've still got Billy Gilmore. He's been in there from the start. It's just a pick that's playing. And then obviously I bought in Luke Ayling this week as well. Just solely for the fact when Leeds' fixtures do turn really good, it's another defensive option to put in defence that a clean sheet and even an attacking return could come. So I'm not playing the 2 Leeds boys this week, but they could very much be coming in from next week onwards for quite a while. So yeah, gone a bit different, but we'll see how it works.
Imagine if that was a real side. Lukaku, Ronaldo, and Antonio as your front three.
It's a pretty decent team. It's not bad. It's not bad at all.
To be fair, the next 3 weeks after this week, Ronaldo and Lukaku could be amongst the goals. Like, that could be the shrewdest decision in the history of decisions. Like, I like it. You've gone big. If you're going to go big, you're going to go big in your forward line, I always say, because it's where the highest returns are with goals. So both of them, goal scorers.
Exactly. And I think for me as well, if I do need to downgrade a Lukaku or even a Ronaldo, it's easy to downgrade them because they're just so high priced. So I can have money in the bank and can, upgrade elsewhere if need be. So I think sometimes going big in the one position isn't always the worst thing, because there's always opportunity, if it doesn't work out, to strengthen up elsewhere. So we'll see how it goes. I'm banking on that it is gonna return though, and I'm gonna keep that for much longer than I hope for, but we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll find out next week. Thank you everyone for joining us. There's our rundown. We'll see you next week.